Dancing in the garden. Are you there? Are you there? Shine on, friend. Good night.
Scott in New Haven, Connecticut, you're on. Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I suppose this relates to the former conversation. It was, I suppose, quite a simple question. With your discussions with theists, what do most say? Do most think that we can test God, or do most think that we can't test God?
I think that theists have managed to weasel their way into a corner where they have made it impossible to test a God. I mean, you know, it used to be that theists would make these grand predictable claims, like where it says in the Bible, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, then you can move a mountain if you pray about it.
Right.
That's testable.
Right.
If you get at the base of a mountain with a buddy and you both pray to move the mountain out of the way and it doesn't work, then you know something new about your former conception about God.
Right. I mean, actually, I think there's probably even a better biblical example of someone testing God. I mean, have you read Judges 6? You know, where Gideon is trying to get confirmation that, you know, God wants him to go and commit genocide on one of these other groups, and he puts that fleece out overnight, and he wants it to be wet when the ground is dry, and then the other night he wants the opposite to happen, and God does it twice.
Sure. And that stuff never happens anymore. Apparently,
right.
God was a lot more testable in the old days. But then, you know, it was exactly because creationism was so testable and kept getting proven wrong that they had to retreat to this wussy, intelligent design position where instead of saying, you know, God did it and he could do all this magic stuff, now they just say, some kind of intelligence that I don't know anything about and that is completely beyond the realm of discussion with, you know, of science and cannot be looked at or examined or even defined, must have done it. And it's like, if you want to get to that position, fine. You say that we can't test it. Then it's out of reach of science. But there's also no way to show that it's true. You just have what that guy is saying, where it's like, oh, well, then you admit that it could possibly have been done by a magic man who can do absolutely everything.
Well, of course a magic man who can do absolutely everything by definition could have done that. Of course.
Right.
But
that magic man also has infinite powers to play hide and seek and not be detected, and that appears to be what he's doing. If he wants to come out and play, then we've got a scientific theory on our hands.
Yeah, I think
until then, no.
God is exactly as testable as his description by his believers is testable, right? When they assign him characteristics that could be tested, why then we can test those characteristics.
Right.
And I hope they keep doing that. And I hope every time they do that, that there's somebody who does that test and knocks it down.
Just this last week, in fact, I was having a discussion with a theist who was claiming that, you know, we were making the usual comparison of Christianity to Greek gods that nobody believes in anymore. And he said, oh, actually, Christian apologists proved that Greek gods didn't exist hundreds of years ago. And then he linked me to this story about this apologist who came in and, like, desecrated Zeus's stuff or something, you know, statues of him. And he said, look, I didn't get struck by lightning. Zeus doesn't exist.
That's fantastic.
And it's like,
so did you go desecrate a Christian church?
No, but I said, your God is a whole bunch of naughty words. And I said, no lightning.
There you go.
So, I mean, you know, if that proof applies, then you can test God. But when you do, of course, they're going to retreat to a position of, oh, my God is mysterious and doesn't like to be tested. So.
Right. It just seems to me that there's some sort of inherent contradiction where, you know, they would refer to, say, miracles and say, this is proof for God. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, given that there's a complete lack of, you know, objective scientific observation of these miracles, they then say, well, it's a matter of faith and all that stuff. So there seems to be, having your cake and eating it too. God is testable, but then he's not testable. And, whichever approach is most convenient in any circumstance, they'll just take whichever is the most convenient.
And on the subject of miracles, that is an amazing bait and switch that believers like to pull, right? On the one hand, they'll say, life would have required a miracle to make it happen, therefore, and God makes miracles, therefore it had to be God. But the only miracles they ever point to in real life are like, some terrorists fly airplanes into the Twin Towers, and they collapse into piles of rubble, and then we get two girders that are standing like at 90-degree angles to each other, forming something that looks vaguely like a cross. That's a miracle. You know what would have been a miracle? The planes becoming intangible and passing harmlessly through the towers. That's a miracle. But, so they take things that seem, emotionally compelling or slightly improbable or just convenient, and they'll call those miracles. But then they'll go way past that when they're trying to say that, something like evolution or abiogenesis had to have been a miraculous event.
People will often call in and say, hey, I've got something amazing that happened, like somebody recovered from a disease that nobody else recovers from. And it almost always happens that when we ask them for details of this miracle, it gradually gets less and less impressive the more details we get out of them.
Yep.
Like, oh, we never actually went to the doctor, but we know that she had terminal cancer. Stuff like that.
Yep. Sure, and they have to do that because their actual miracle events are so freaking lame.
Great. Well, thanks for your answers, guys. I'll let you get to the other callers.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you for
Thanks,
calling.
guys. Bye.
I love our callers.
Yeah, our callers are awesome. But not as awesome as you.
Stop it!